Yo, while everyone was distracted with the holiday season, the EU just advanced a plan to potentially steal your money. That's right, you heard that right. In the same way the Federal Reserve was created over Christmas, Christine Lagarde just released an interesting Christmas update confirming their digital euro is coming. But that's not the only update we have for you guys this week. The ECB has also got all 27 countries in the EU Council to accept holding limits on the coming CBDC. And then almost as if it's coordinated, of course, there's no coincidences here, we also got a wild video from Ursula von der Leyen this week. But before we get to all of that, let's play the clip of Christine Lagarde's Christmas central bank digital currency digital euro update. And again, definitely not a coincidence whatsoever. Let's check it out.
We're getting to the close of the year, and for many of us, it's a celebration moment. So to all of you who are celebrating, Merry Christmas. To those who are not celebrating, I hope you are having a lovely time. It's also a time to look back and see how much has been done. And frankly, been a lot of work. One thing that the European Central Bank is proud of is to have achieved our target of 2% medium term. Inflation is down to where we wanted it to be. We've also looked at our strategy going forward, and we took stock of the work done by all the teams to see from a strategy point of view how we're going to go forward and whether our strategy is fit for purpose and whether the ECB is fit for the times we're going through. Difficult times they are. The two other big projects that we have worked on and will continue to work on in 26 are number one, the digital euro. We have completed the cycle of the preparation. The Governing Council has given its go-ahead to move to the next cycle, and we're now waiting for the European Parliament to come up with final legislation that will the go-ahead for the pilot phase and then the launch. The other project, which is not unrelated, more traditional, but still very efficient and needed, is the banknote. We are revamping our banknotes. Process is well underway, and we will have new design, new faces possibly, and we look forward to that as well. So to all of you, you should know that the European Central Bank is standing strong, pleased that it has reached its price stability target, and determined to make sure that this remains the case and that we are useful for our European compatriots. Have a very happy holiday.
So I don't know what it is about the day before Christmas, but for anyone who doesn't know, and I'll show you guys the date, the reason that date is so significant for us Bitcoiners and for us people that believe in sound money and for us people that don't believe in central banking is, you know, when the Federal Reserve was established the day before Christmas. Do you want to know why they did that? They did that because they're hoping no one would pay attention. Also, you can go down a deeper rabbit hole and you could say they did that for symbolic reasons, but I don't want to go there. Anyhow, let's check out what Simon Dixon had to say regarding this. Again, this specific date plays, it's, again, the establishment of the central bank in the United States that's around today. Do you think it's a coincidence that Christine Lagarde, you know, saying all this happy holiday cheer, saying, hey guys, very good news. You know, do you think that it's a coincidence that, again, she's giving you an update how the digital euro is advancing on the same day that the Federal Reserve was established? No, I don't believe that's a coincidence. I believe that is strong symbolism. I believe they're trying to tell you something. And I think it's 100% on purpose. And we're not the only ones to notice this. And by the way, while all of this was happening, and again, it's not a coincidence these days, these dates. The European Commission has also announced some news regarding speech on the internet and the laws that they're going to pass. And it's like borderline 1984 type of stuff. Like once I play you the video of Ursula von der Leyen and how she talks about freedom of speech on the internet and how she commingles words and like wordsmiths things and makes it seem like, look, like, you know, it's a danger to democracy if people somehow talk on the internet freely. Like, I would say that's the opposite. Like, I would say you can't have a democracy unless people talk on the internet freely. that happened on the same day that Christine Lagarde is giving an update on the digital euro. So to think that the two things are not going to be connected, right? The digital euro connected with your online behavior and then moving forward with the digital ID that they have planned. If you think those three things are not connected, and if you think it's also not connected that they're announcing all of this on the same day that the Federal Reserve was established, like, you're completely asleep at the wheel. Like, this is all completely symbolic. This is all to send a message. And again, maybe that's my personal interpretation of this, but as a Bitcoiner, but like, again, out of every single day of the year, you happen to say this on Christmas. I don't think so. And by the way, not the only one to think this. Simon Dixon says the EU moved the digital euro for the ECB forward yesterday on December 24, 2025. Same playbook as 1913 when the Federal Reserve Act was passed while Congress and the public were preparing for Christmas. And here is a professor, and he says, if this person spoke the truth, the digital euro would be scrapped. Sadly, it looks like she's gaslighting. She said on introducing CBDC, quote, we're waiting on European Parliament to come up with the legislation. The sham, Parliament has no such powers. Like, again, it's like some dystopian type of stuff, man. Like, and I'll connect this with the digital speech laws in a second. It's all under this veneer of this is for you. Like, the banknote stuff is hilarious. It's like, yeah, you're going to get to design, you know, your own fiat currency to some extent. I'm sure there's limitations to it, but it comes with this representation. Like, the justification for their authority and their power is that it's for your safety. It's for your own good. It's for the protection of democracy. It's for the protection of society. And I would say one of the most destabilizing things that society has to deal with in the modern age is inflation and currency debasement. It literally is the primary cause of wealth inequality. And what is one of the primary reasons of societal instability? Wealth inequality, right? So again, the people that are literally responsible, the institutions that are responsible for this, are the ones coming to you and saying, hey, listen, we have a solution. You know, we're all coming here. You know, we're all on board. And by the way, we have to censor certain types of speech because that's somehow dangerous at the same time. Like, things aren't adding. The math ain't mathin'. Anyways, so what am I talking about? Again, Federal Reserve established December 23rd, 1913, December 24th. Again, the dates, the correlation here. I don't think it's a coincidence. And then simultaneously, while all of this was happening, while Christine Lagarde was making this announcement regarding the central bank digital currency, how it's moving forward, how she's super excited about it, how that's her top priority, you have Ursula von der Leyen, who is the, let me be specific here, the president of the EU Commission, which, by the way, is not democratically elected. She comes out and she says this in front of an audience, which, again, crazy talk.
And finally, it takes results. As technology evolves, we need to build up societal immunity around information manipulation. Because research has shown that pre-bunking is much more successful than debunking. Pre-bunking is basically the opposite of debunking. In short, prevention is preferable to cure. Perhaps if you think of information manipulation as a virus, instead of treating an infection once it has taken hold, that is debunking. It is much better to vaccinate so that the body is inoculated. Debunking is the same approach. Because disinformation relies on people passing it on to others. It is essential that people know what malign information's influence is and what the techniques are that are behind it. And as the knowledge goes up, our chances of being influenced goes down. And that builds up the society resilience that we will need.
So that's okay. Let's go through the key phrases there because it's insane. Societal vaccination, right? Again, the words here, there's no conspiracies, but there's no coincidences. Like what a specific word that you want to use for censorship. Pre-bunking instead of debunking. What pre-bunking infers is we're going to censor certain types of information that we deem, by the way, this is an unelected bureaucrat, that we deem as disinformation. And then we're going to define that as information manipulation. And then, to add the cherry on the top, this is crazy. She goes on, she uses, the words, right? Freedom of speech is the foundation of our strong and vibrant European democracy. We are proud of it. We will protect it because the EU Commission is the guardian of our values. Now, again, going back to what I was saying in the beginning of the show, when I was saying look, this is a way not only to steal your money, not only via inflation, but literally through direct censorship, direct seizure, but also a way for taking away your ability to even bring that to light, taking away your ability to even talk about it, right? So it's complete control over your money. And then with these laws, it's a form of soft power, right? It's not direct coercion. It's soft coercion. It's basically incentivizing you not to say anything because if you say something, right, your money might be at risk. This is the society that they want. And here is Alejandro Marinos, and he says, you froze the bank accounts of Jacques Bad, a Swiss citizen residing in Belgium, and banned every EU business from transacting with him, such that he can't even buy bread or pay rent. And your own rationale is that you didn't like what he was saying. You did this with no due process, no right of appeal, no way to defend himself from your slanderous and ruinous accusations, and he's not the only one. You obviously have no comprehension of the terms you use and what their meaning is, and what is the purpose of the principles you so easily throw around. Unfortunately, EU citizens never elected you, so they can't unelect you. You keep turning the EU into the USSR until your failed experiment comes crashing down. I would make the argument that it's already starting to do that. And the reason for this, and again, it just goes down to markets and your belief system, is the best way to organize a society is through free market capitalism. The other option that you have is kind of this top-down coercive control economic model that, again, whether you define it from the left-wing perspective or the right-wing perspective, is not as efficient at creating wealth than the free market. Because ultimately, you guys have to understand this, a bureaucrat does not create wealth. Entrepreneurs create wealth. A bureaucrat relies on your taxes for them to get paid, right? So you could see where the incentive structure is, kind of misaligned, right? And the more a bureaucrat creates more regulation, more red tape, more censorship, the harder it becomes for entrepreneurs to start businesses. Therefore, entrepreneurs leave, they go to more favorable jurisdictions, and then those jurisdictions benefit from them creating businesses. You create a business, you employ people, and you create tax revenue for the local jurisdiction. But the more red tape, the more regulation, it's going to go backwards. And I'll show you guys the numbers. This isn't just me talking from an ideological Bitcoiner's perspective of I love free markets and, money shouldn't be controlled by the state, right? But anyways, super, super dystopian. And then I'll give you guys more examples. Again, all came out December 24th, 2025. Same day the Federal Reserve was launched. Same day that Christine Lagarde goes out in front of a Christmas tree telling you how excited she is about the launch of the incoming central bank digital currency. If you think any of these things are not connected, again, you're sleeping at the wheel, you're not paying attention. And when we say at Simply Bitcoin, Bitcoin or slavery, this is what we're talking about. This is slavery in the digital age. This is neo-feudalism. That's literally what it is. They looked at China, they fell in love with the China model, and they're copying it. It's like a China light model. It's not full China, but it's a China light, right? And that's what's happening. Bureaucrats fell in love with China, how China was controlling people via central bank digital currencies and digital credit scores and digital IDs, and they're like, huh, that's a pretty good idea. Let's implement that here. And by the way, if you're not in the EU, if you're watching from the US, they're trying to do that here as well. Make no mistake, there was a bill that was passed, it was barely passed in the US House of Representatives, and it was literally split across party lines. Who would be for the federal government launching a CBDC, and who would be against the federal government launching a central bank digital currency? And you know who in the federal government wants a CBDC? Elizabeth Warren. And you know who dislikes Bitcoin? Elizabeth Warren. Why? Because Bitcoin provides competition towards a central bank digital currency. Anyways, so all of this stuff is connected. And they're telling you, they're very blatant about it. All of these announcements are coming all on the same day. The day before Christmas, which was the same day that they launched the Federal Reserve in 1913. Like, the symbolism there is gnarly. Anyways, so Digital EU says no space for cyber. Again, this is the excuse. This is the reasoning that they're using. Ursula says, hey, this is about freedom of speech. Then I read you an example of someone who's a victim, right? And then they co-opt the wording, they wordsmith the wording, they kind of change it around, and they use it as justifications for why the EU should be censoring and for why the EU should be passing these laws in the first place. So they said no space for cyberbullying, no space for dangerous products, no space for hate speech, no space for scams. Yes, with the Digital Service Act, what is illegal offline remains illegal online. So at first glance, you're thinking, okay, you know, that's not a big deal, Nico. She's talking about freedom of speech. They're talking about no cyberbullying, no dangerous products, no hate speech, no scams. I think we can all agree, like, I think most people, 99% of people are not okay with that, right? They're not okay with that. The fundamental problem is, and this is why I played you guys the video, take a look at the wording: pre-bunking, information manipulation, a societal vaccination, right? Because we don't want society, you know, critically thinking and thinking on their own. The problem with that is who gets to decide what is hate speech? Who gets to decide what is a scam? Because according to Christine Lagarde, Bitcoin is a scam, right? According to here in the US, right, the Samurai Wallet thing, the Samurai Wallet developers, what they did was illegal, even though they just developed open source software and the majority of people were using it for privacy. A very small percentage of people were using it for criminal activity, but that software wasn't designed for criminal activity. It was just designed for privacy. So again, you kind of go down this very slippery slope when the government is the one who decides what is free speech, what is okay and what is not okay. You go down a very, very slippery slope once you start heading down in that direction, right? Here are some of the Bitcoiners' responses to this. Walker America says, are EU citizens allowed to say the Digital Services Act is regarded? Xavier says, have you applied those principles to yourself? No space for bullying people with a green or vaccine pass. No space for dangerous. I don't know if I could read all of this stuff, but you guys get the point. Like, again, it's a double standard, to say the least. Here's another post. Regulating digital platforms to protect citizens. It's always to protect you. You know, the bringing down the inflation rate. It's for your own good. You designing the euro bill. It's for you, right? The EU's sovereignty is under threat because of Bitcoin, right? It's always because of you. It's always, you know, because of your own safety. It's always and also too, one of the things that I didn't like about that video as well is like, I feel like she's calling us dumb. Like, I feel like she's calling us stupid, right? It's like, so like, you don't trust your own citizens to, you know, like think critically and get to decide what information is true and what information is not true. Like, what do you mean pre-bunking? Pre-bunking means censorship. That's what it means, because they realize that they can't debunk it after, because they get absolutely destroyed on Twitter, right? They just get memed out of existence. So they realize, like, no, we can't compete. Our ideas can't compete. So what we got to do is we got to censor those ideas before they even, you know, come out, right? So again, this is some like dystopian 1984 stuff. Regulating digital platforms to protect citizens' democratic debate and the rule of law is not censoring. It is responsibility. Like, what do you mean? Like, that literally contradicts itself. How can you have democratic debate? How can you have democratic debate if you're censoring certain type of speech, right? How can you have democratic debate if you're censoring certain types of speech? Anyways, here is Doge. You guys remember Doge with Elon? And this is what I was talking about regarding really the two economic models that we've seen in the world. We've seen this top-down economic model that's run by bureaucrats. They, you know, they make regulations, they make the rules, and the outcomes of that economic model have not worked. We have 100 years, I would say more than 100 years of information regarding this. And then the other economic model, which again, the US is not a complete laissez-faire, you know, capitalist country. It still has a central bank, but again, has significantly less regulations, and it's much more favorable for entrepreneurs. You can start to see the stark contrast in wealth generation, right? And this is what happens, because ultimately, you guys have to understand, the government does not produce anything. The government's form of revenue is taxation. And there's two forms of taxation. There's taxation via inflation, and then there's direct taxation. They can only directly tax you to such an extent before people get fed up with it. So they kind of use the backdoor access, which is debasing the currency. So Doge, the government entity here in the US, says Europe has zero internet sector, a stagnant economy, failing industrial base, structurally high unemployment, pervasive energy dependency, and no innovation sector. In order to build any of the below infrastructure, Europe will need to deregulate, abandon its nihilistic climate delusions, embrace free markets, reduce taxes to competitive global levels, all things the Trump administration has repeatedly urged Europe to do for their sake and ours. And this is what a EU bureaucrat responded. She is the president of the Committee on Economic and Monetary Affairs of the European Parliament. Again, not a business owner, nothing at stake, just a bureaucrat. Oh, so cute. Sorry, but we're a free and independent continent. Anyway, the sheer moral panic you display whenever we talk about independence from your tech sector proves we're on the right track. Thanks for proving our point. It's interesting because before Elon acquired X, they didn't really care about what was happening on Twitter. They didn't really care. It was after Elon acquired X, and I know a lot of you guys aren't the biggest fans of Elon, that all of a sudden, you know, again, to use Ursula's own words, right? All of a sudden, you need this societal vaccination. You need this pre-bunking. All of a sudden, information is being manipulated without providing examples, right? So, like, does information manipulation count when, you know, citizens bring up something that makes you look bad? Is that information manipulation? Again, it's a very, very slippery slope, which the founding fathers fundamentally understood this on a core level, which is why they made the First Amendment. And they made it as such because they realized that if the government had the ability to determine and define what speech is okay and what speech is not okay, they were going to use that power, abuse that power in order to remain in power. So the First Amendment, they put it there for a reason, right? And they wanted basically, and it's not perfect, right? It's not perfect. Both systems have trade-offs. I would say the free speech system is a much better system than, again, a group of elites getting to determine what you can think and what you can say. And then if you say a certain thing, they shut off your money, right? Like the other is freedom of speech, which again can be messy. Sometimes people say some rude things. Sometimes people say some nasty stuff. But again, at least there's debate, right? They're talking about democratic debate. That's what the debate is all about. It's the debate of ideas. If your idea is not good, it's not going to last in the free market of ideas. They want to shut that down. A group of bureaucrats in Brussels want to get to decide what ideas are good and what ideas are bad. And we had an example of an entire country that followed that philosophy and ultimately collapsed using that top-down type of control. And of course, I'm talking about the USSR. So let's compare and contrast the two economies, right? So the US is on the top. Between 2007 and 2009, the European Union and the United States, their GDPs were essentially equal. 14.2 trillion and 14.8 trillion. Fast forward to 2025, US GDP is at 27.4 trillion and EU GDP is at 15.5 trillion. So essentially between 2008 and 2025, EU GDP grew from 14.2 to 15.5, and US GDP grew from 14.8 to 27.4, basically almost doubling, right? And just to end it with a meme, because I think this meme perfectly encapsulates all of the things that I'm saying, is this meme by Mark Andreessen, right? The EU is a water bottle with the little cap thing to make sure that you don't throw away the cap because, you know, that'd be polluting and all that stuff. And the US, we're catching rockets with giant robot arms and self-driving cars. And I think that perfectly summarizes it. And to loop Bitcoin back into all of this, ultimately what it comes down to is, you know, do you want to live in a free society where you're allowed to speak freely, you're allowed to discuss your ideas, you're allowed to give your point of view, your perspective? Or do you want to live in a society where a group of elites who don't play by the same rules get to dictate every facet of your life? Those are the two futures ahead of you. It's a future of Bitcoin or it's a future of central bank digital currencies. There is no in between. Make no mistake. That's where the world is heading. And the EU is showing you. They're giving you an example. So China, you know, was the vanguard for all this. They said it. They're like, this is what we're going to do. The EU is following in their footsteps, and the US is somewhat resisting. But this is the world. And that I want to lay it on you guys. Like, is that a world you want to live in? Is that a world you want your kids living in? Because essentially what they're saying is they're calling you stupid. They're calling you dumb. They're basically saying you can't think on your own. We actually have to vaccinate the information because it's not it might infect you with bad ideas. Like that's what they're saying. And that's insanity to me. That's insanity to me. Look, like people don't you know, people don't follow bad ideas. Like as a whole, like people aren't like, oh, okay, this is a bad idea, let me just start following it, and like, oh, this is whatever. No, like ultimately, if you leave people to their own devices and you don't baby them, they tend to take care of themselves. This whole idea of having this giant bureaucratic nanny state, I would say, has regressed humanity rather than advanced humanity, because it's created a whole group of people that essentially are saying, look, like, government, please take care of me, right? And again, if you have a disability or, you're in a certain situation, I understand that. I get that. But there's a whole lot of people that are taking advantage of that system so that they don't have to do anything, right? So again, this is pretty crazy in the EU. Central bank digital currency and passing a law to censor speech, and the day before Christmas, which is the same day that the Federal Reserve was established. Like, you couldn't write this story better even if you tried, right? So anyways, Bitcoin or slavery, and that's literally the world in front of us. Guys, we have an incredible show for you guys. We have Donald Trump getting asked a very interesting question in front of reporters, talking about housing, talking about how housing is unaffordable, and talking about how he's in a predicament. Interesting clip to discuss. And then we have some news coming out of Russia regarding Russia claiming that the United States wants to use, anyways, they want to use a nuclear occupied site to mine Bitcoin. It's so crazy. I have to read you guys the article because I can't even explain it. And then in Arizona introduces bill to exempt Bitcoin and crypto from property taxes, which is pretty cool. And then during the culture segment, we got lined up pretty interesting from CNN Business, which I usually don't talk about, but I think it's very fitting for this year. The headline is "Crypto Slump May Be a Cultural Problem as Much as a Financial One." And we'll get into that because we have been talking about this for many, many weeks now. Anyways, guys, it's going to be an incredible show. If you guys are enjoying it so far, make sure to smash that like button. We're going to be right back in just a bit. Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded, non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys are enjoying today's Friday special, make sure to smash that like button. Don't write down your seed words on paper. Stamp them into titanium only on stampseed.com. Again, it comes with the full kit, the hammer, the letter stamping tools, and the plates. This is the 12-word seed plate. This came by popular demand. People really wanted a 12-word seed plate. Again, you can get yours at stampseed.com and use promo code SIMPLY. Again, promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $87,250. Block height 929,604. Market cap 1.74 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 5.38%. Decline from all-time high negative 30.8%. In the grand scheme of things, guys, we're just getting started. I love that this number went down, man. I love that it went down. Before, if Bitcoin were to catch the market cap of gold, it would mean one Bitcoin equals $1 million, right? Now, if Bitcoin reaches the market cap of gold, one Bitcoin equals $1.5 million. So I'll take it. I'll take it. We still got a long ways to go. 95% left until Bitcoin reaches the market cap of gold. And I think that's the lowest hanging fruit. I think Bitcoin fails if it doesn't at least reach the market cap of gold. And again, everyone's really depressed right now. Everyone's really sad, but we're really only down 31%, right? If you guys remember previous bear markets, previous cycles, you go down 50%, you go down 40%, you go down 60%. So again, you know, like it's really not that big of a dip, right? Anyways, guys, I want to play you guys this video of President Trump. And he was asked a very interesting question in the Oval Office, and it had to do with housing, and it had to do with real estate. And again, all of this ties into Bitcoin. I'll explain how it ties into Bitcoin. But his response was quite interesting, and I'm going to tell you guys what to do. I know our demographic, I know our core audience varies. So based on your age, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'll tell you, maybe perhaps I'll give you advice. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'll say it like that. And then it's quite interesting, the conundrum. And then what is the cause of all of this? We'll talk about that as well. So anyways, I'm going to play you guys the clip. I found it quite interesting, and we'll talk about it.
On housing, you talked in your address last night about housing.
Yeah.
Are you still considering a national emergency over housing?
I'm looking at it.
What
yeah,
would that look like? What would that mobilize?
You know, there's two thoughts on housing. You have a lot of people have housing that because we have such a strong time and such a strong market, their houses are very valuable. It's a big part of their net worth, their house. I don't want to knock those numbers down because I want them to continue to have a big value for their house. At the same time, I want to make it possible for young people out there and other people to buy housing. In a way, they're at conflict. In other words, you create a lot of housing all of a sudden, and it drives the housing prices down. So I want to take care of the people that have houses that have a value to, you know, to their house that they never thought possible, that have sort of made them wealthy and happy, and you know, especially in their later years. Got to be careful with that. I want to keep them up. At the same time, I want to make it possible for people to go buy houses. Daniel, please.
So it's super interesting, right? Basically saying like, look, there is a housing emergency in my opinion, but again, that's the perspective of someone who is from the younger generations, right? I'm a millennial. But you can see the conundrum that President Trump is in, right? He obviously wants to do good by his constituents. His constituents are, you know, Gen Zers, millennials, Gen Xers, boomers. Boomers own the majority of the real estate. And what he's basically saying is like, look, like if we build more houses, the prices of all of that real estate is going to go down, and the net worth of a lot of these older constituents of mine is going to go lower. Now, this is what fiat does. Fiat forces something that should be a utility, which is a house is fundamentally utility, right? You use it to live, right? You use it to sleep. You use it to, you know, eat, right? But it's a utility. The fiat system because it forces you to invest just to maintain your purchasing power, has made housing an asset, right? So people, if you're wealthy, you park your wealth in real estate, and that real estate appreciates over time. The value proposition of Bitcoin is basically your money grows in purchasing power over time because it has absolute scarcity, right? Bitcoin, there's only 21 million. Infinity, they're going to keep on printing money. Infinity divided by 21 million. So the price of Bitcoin, theoretically, should go up over time because it's scarce. Real estate is scarce, but again, I think it's an inferior asset. Why is it an inferior asset? You have to pay property tax on it. If you're renting it out, you have to manage tenants. If something breaks, you got to fix it, right? So there's an ongoing cost of maintenance that you have to pay on a yearly basis for real estate. What is the ongoing cost for having Bitcoin and putting it in cold storage? Is there cost for that? No, right? What is more scarce? They could always build more houses. Can't make more Bitcoin, right? Even with the miners, right? Every 4 years, there's a halving. So the amount of Bitcoin that's being mined literally gets cut in half until the year 2140. We still got plenty of time before, that happens. So the point I'm trying to make is, in this world of fiat, where because the money is constantly losing value, people seek to park their wealth in assets so that their wealth doesn't decrease. It's really fucked up. Excuse my language, but it really is. And it creates situations like this, where the president is stuck between a rock and a hard place. And by the way, Mondami, the mayor in New York, even though I don't agree with a lot of his ideological positions, the reason he got elected, rightly so, is because a lot of people could not afford to live. And again, I don't think his solutions are going to work, because the thing that's broken here fundamentally, that no central banker or politician is going to offer to fix, is broken money. Broken money is what's causing inflated real estate prices. That is what is inflating real estate, is because if you're a very wealthy person and you have excess capital, you either put it into stocks, you either put it into gold, or you put it into real estate. That's what you do, right? The Bitcoin proposition is quite interesting, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll tell you why. All of those things require a level of expertise. So, like, if you are investing into real estate, you need to take the time to understand what real estate are you investing into. I'm not talking about your homestead. I'm not talking about the home that you live in, right? You need to be educated and informed on what piece of real estate you're buying, because you obviously want that piece of real estate to go up, or you want the rent that someone's going to pay for them to live in the piece of real estate that you own to give you, between an 8 to 12% return on a yearly basis. That is not easy. You have to learn. That's a skill, right? Then there's the stock market, right? So if you're a very wealthy person, you pay someone else to manage your money. Keyword, you pay someone else to manage your money. So every year, you're paying this person for them to manage your money. And then depending on your risk tolerance, they give you, if you want to take more risks, right, you get up to that 15, 20% region. But again, very, very risky. Or you're more conservative and you're going for, that 5% to 8% return on a yearly basis, right? Or you invest in gold. But gold performed very poorly for a decade until this year, where it really had a breakout, right? The Bitcoin the proposition is quite interesting, because you don't need to be an expert in Bitcoin, right? Number one, you don't need to pay someone to manage your Bitcoin. You don't need to maintain your Bitcoin. You don't need to pay property taxes on your Bitcoin so far. And maybe that will change in the future. I have a suspicion they'll try something like that, but not yet. So if you add all of those things up, what it creates is it makes your life a whole lot easier, because all of a sudden, if if you're someone that perhaps you're not very wealthy, but you have a high income and you have disposable income on a monthly basis, you don't have to become a part-time investor. You can just focus on your craft, put your excess capital into Bitcoin. And if Michael Saylor's, predictions of a 30 to 20% CAGR over the next 20 years come true, you're going to outperform most real estate and most stock investments by a large margin. Like a 30% return on your investment on a yearly basis compounded is insanity. You're never going to get that anywhere else. And the plus side is you don't have to pay anyone to do that. Of course, this only applies to spot Bitcoin. So we're in this situation where there's this so-called housing crisis because fiat money created this housing crisis in the first place. It forces people to invest to maintain their purchasing power. Imagine if, and I know it's hard to conceptualize, imagine if you just worked, you used your money to, pay for your food, your bills, your taxes, and then your savings, you just put it in Bitcoin. You don't have to get complicated and say, "Oh my God, look, let me buy this rental property, or let me buy this, let me put some money in the S&P 500, or actually, you know what? Let me hire this expert so that he can manage my money and I can get an 8 to 12% return on a yearly basis." All of that goes away. What fiat money has created is something called over-financialization. Things that are financialized that shouldn't be financialized. That's what fiat money has created. And the simple mechanism of why that was created is, again, because you're forced to invest just to maintain your purchasing power, which is gnarly, nuts. Think about it. All the time and energy and effort you put in to earning money, and that money, by design, loses value on a yearly basis. So anyone who, again, has 2 brain cells is going to say, yeah, like I'm probably going to have to do something with that money. I can't leave it just in my bank account because it's just going to lose value. That is absurd. And that's where all the nihilism comes from. That's where the lack of hope comes from. That's where this short-term thinking, that's where it comes from. It comes from the fact that you're stealing people's hope. That's where it comes from. And that's where the president is kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. I'm not making an excuse for him, but he's like, look, I have a lot of boomers that vote for me. They're going to be pissed off if all of a sudden we start building a lot of houses and then the real estate prices come down, and then they're going to get mad at me because all of a sudden their net worths go down. And then, younger people are going to get mad at me because they can't even afford to live. How is it that younger people are poorer than their parents? They have less opportunity than their parents, even though the world is way wealthier. What is going on here? It's simple. The broken money. The broken money is messing up the incentives, and it's creating the situation that we are in today. So anyways, once you see these videos, once you see videos of Ursula von whatever, and once you see videos of Christine Lagarde talking about central bank digital currencies, once you see videos of President Trump, all of these politicians, you guys have to understand something. They're not here to save you. I love President Trump and his pro-Bitcoin policy. It's been fantastic. I love Senator Lummis and what she's done for the industry. I'm not saying that politicians are not important. Ultimately, it's President Trump that got Ross out of prison. But what I'm trying to say is that, this revolution is a bottom-up revolution. It is you, the individual, choosing to vote what you do with your wallet and where you want to park your wealth. And I promise you that once you put your wealth and your time and your energy into something that actually respects your time, values your time, your life's going to change. Because all of a sudden, your time preference, your ability to look out into the future and say, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to afford that thing because it just continues to get more expensive. Once you change your mindset into a Bitcoin mindset, everything around you is trending to zero as it relates to Bitcoin, including real estate, by the way. So if you look at housing prices from 5 years ago, even though housing has doubled since then, in Bitcoin terms, housing has actually gotten cheaper. So use Bitcoin as your unit of account. Don't denominate your net worth in dollars. Denominate your net worth in Bitcoin and see everything around you get cheaper over time. And once the world comes to that realization and hope comes back to people's lives and they have the ability to think into the future, I think the world's going to be a much better place, a much more peaceful place, and a much more optimistic place. And it's something that fiat has absolutely stolen from us. And the nihilism and the instability that you see in today's world, literally the root cause, the source of all of that is broken money. So you fix the money, you fix the world. It's really that simple. All right, everybody, let's get to the news. We have tons to talk about. We're going to be right back in just a bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones? They don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
All right, everybody, we are back. Guys, go to bitkey.world today. Use promo code SIMPLY. Again, promo code SIMPLY. You get 20% off anything on the store. Guys, the BitKey wallet is literally the easiest hardware wallet to use on the market right now. It has multi-sig built in. It has inheritance built in. All you got to do is scan the QR code on your screen or check the link in the video/podcast description. All right, everybody, let's jump into today's news story. I found this quite interesting. U.S. reportedly seeking crypto mining access to Russia-occupied nuclear site. Russian President Vladimir Putin said the United States has expressed interest in establishing cryptocurrency mining operations at a nuclear power plant. The statement came during a recent meeting between Putin and Russian business leaders, where he discussed ongoing negotiations over the plant's future, according to a report from a Russian outlet. Located in southeastern Ukraine, the ZNPP is Europe's largest nuclear facility and once played a central role in Ukraine's electricity supply and grid stability. Since being occupied by Russian forces in 2022, the site has become a recurring flashpoint in diplomatic discussions. The report claims that Washington aims to use a proposed stake in the ZNPP for crypto mining as part of a wider U.S.-Russia talks. Moscow and Washington are reportedly discussing a joint management plan for the plant that would exclude Ukraine. However, according to the BBC, Ukrainian President Zelensky presented an updated peace plan, which included a proposal for the U.S. for a tripart agreement for the facility. In the agreement, Russia, Ukraine, and the U.S. will hold equal stakes in the facility. So again, I find this super, super interesting. Why? We know President Trump is all about Bitcoin, right? We know his sons have stakes in Bitcoin mining companies. And I find it hilarious that now in geopolitical conversations or negotiations, Bitcoin mining is being brought up as part of it. Like, they're negotiating for this power plant in the middle of Ukraine. They're basically saying, like, look, actually, we want some of that electricity to mine Bitcoin with it. Like, that is hilarious. I mean, if you think that, if that is not an indication of Bitcoin's success, the fact that Bitcoin is being discussed in peace negotiations between the United States and Russia, I think you have your head in the sand. Like, this is crazy. If you would have told me this was a reality again, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I would have just been, I would have said that's unbelievable. And this is what actually Max Kaiser said when he was talking about the global hash war. Like, he called it himself. He said, look, listen, there's going to be a global hash war. And that global hash war is basically countries competing for the hash rate and the amount of Bitcoin that they can mine. And, and again, that's because of Bitcoin's incentives. And I don't find it hilarious. It's very sad that there's a war going on and stuff. I hope the war ends soon. But I do find it, I do find it interesting. I'll leave it like that. That part of the negotiations are, hey, part of this nuclear power plant that we're thinking about splitting between the United States and Russia, or potentially splitting it between Russia, Ukraine, and the United States. Part of that energy is going to be used to contribute to the hash rate. Like, that's hilarious. I'm sorry. I don't know how else to say that. As another news also, Arizona introduces bill to exempt Bitcoin and crypto from property taxes. Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers has introduced a package of legislation aimed at reshaping how digital assets are treated under state and local tax law, renewing a broader push by some lawmakers to position Arizona as a jurisdiction with cleaner and more favorable rules for cryptocurrencies and blockchain infrastructure. In bills pre-filed with the Arizona Senate, Rogers proposed amending state statutes to exempt virtual currencies from taxation, prohibiting countries, cities, and towns from taxing or fining entities that operate blockchain nodes, and advancing a constitutional amendment to clarify how digital assets fit into Arizona's property tax framework. The measures take different procedural paths. SB 1045, which focuses on protections for blockchain node operators, could move through legislation and become law if approved by lawmakers and signed by the government. So all quite interesting. Again, I'm putting these two articles back to back to show you guys that despite this 30% drawdown, and this uncertainty that we see and this complete lack of interest from retail, Bitcoin's here to stay, guys. Like, it is so entrenched in local politics and geopolitics. You have presidents of some of the most powerful countries, no, the most powerful countries on the face of the planet, name dropping it left and right. And again, I know this article said cryptocurrency, but guys, what's the only like actual legitimate proof of work, cryptocurrency that exists today? The one that you're actually going to be able to make any type of money on. The only one that exists is Bitcoin. Ethereum migrated to proof of stake, right? So again, this is the United States and Russia are like actively negotiating on, this nuclear power plant, and the United States allegedly, or according to Vladimir Putin, is saying that they want to use some of that energy to mine Bitcoin with it. Like, and Trump's kids own, a mining company, right? You couldn't have written this better yourself if you tried. Anyhow, guys, we're going to get to the culture segment. A very interesting article by CNN, which I think I really want to talk about because this year, I think a lot of things were forgotten. The first thing that was forgotten is I think a lot of people forgot why we are here, why we're here for Bitcoin, what the point of this Bitcoin revolution is all about, what we're fighting for. In the intro of the show, I laid it out for you guys regarding the CBDCs, regarding Christine Lagarde, regarding what they want for the world. But I think this year, a lot of people forgot because of the involvement of institutional players. So because of the involvement of, of Wall Street and these ETFs and these Bitcoin treasury companies, I think people forgot, why they're here. I think people ultimately forgot, what Bitcoin fixes. Because if you're buying a Bitcoin treasury company or an ETF, you're not contributing to the revolution. The only way to contribute to the revolution is buying spot Bitcoin and taking that Bitcoin into self-custody. If not, Bitcoin fails. If not, our mission fails, right? And also, you should be running a node at this point also. There's a link in the video description. It's so easy these days. You can buy a pre-built node. I recommend the Start 9. And literally, you can be running your own version of the Bitcoin software and your own copy of the Bitcoin blockchain, right? So you don't have to trust someone else's copy every time you send out a Bitcoin transaction, right? That's how you truly become financially sovereign, right? That this is what this show is all about. So, don't forget, why we're here. And I think that this year, a lot of people forgot why we're here. A lot of people came for the gains and they left, right? When I came into this, you came for the gains and you stayed for the revolution. This year was the exact opposite. People came for the gains and then they left and they completely forgot about the revolution. We got to reverse that. So anyways, I found this article quite interesting. And also we're going to be giving away some sats through the Bitcoin Well Wishing Well game. So it's going to be great, guys. So stay tuned. We're going to be right back in just a little bit. Here we go. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at Hive Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank. And you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth.
and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, everybody, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's jump straight into this, and then we're going to be giving away some sats. And then we're going to be wrapping up today's show for the week. It's been a long week. Anyways, let's jump straight into it. CNN. Usually don't like CNN articles, but let's check this one out. Crypto slump may be a cultural problem as much as a financial one. What do they mean? Crypto managed to make it through the year without a seismic collapse or major scandal. Already spinning it and framing in a certain way, but whatever, we'll take it. Yet it's still shaping up to be one of the industry's worst year. Until October, Bitcoin had been riding high, hitting a peak of 126,000, up more than 30% since January. But a combination of forces has wiped out all of the bellwether token gains for the year. It's now down 7% since January, badly underperforming the S&P 500. There are no more boogeyman for the industry to blame. The Biden-era regulators that suppressed crypto's expansion in the U.S. are long gone, replaced by an openly pro-crypto regime appointed by the self-styled crypto president. Congress is advancing industry-approved legislation. Institutional adoption has surged, bringing in billions through Bitcoin ETFs. And still, crypto can't seem to find its footing. After holding somewhat steady around $90,000 level in recent weeks, another steep sell-off sent Bitcoin tumbling to around 86,000. We're roughly at that level right now. If Team Crypto is looking to point a finger for this bear market, it might consider a mirror. There are technical reasons for the slump, most notably an extreme buildup of leverage positions, speculative bets that can turbocharge gains but come with extreme downside risks. They were liquidated in an early October flash crash, but the protracted slump appears to be about more than just a hangover from that crash. Risk appetite hasn't gone away, as the tech-heavy NASDAQ has done even better than broader stock market. So why are investors shunning this particular flavor of risk? One explanation is that crypto culture has refused to grow up, and it's keeping would-be investors on the sidelines. Looking back on a year when crypto advocates got everything they could have dreamed of from a legal and regulatory standpoint, the industry still hasn't figured out what to do with its problem child, the scammers, thieves, internet trolls, who haven't gotten the memo that crypto is trying to clean up its act. Over the summer, meme coins pushers claimed responsibility for an orchestrated effort. I can't read that. But if you guys saw it on screen, then there are garden variety of scammers who find in crypto a means to separate people from their money via crypto ATM schemes, an epidemic that has cost Americans more than $330 million this year. And in extreme cases, there's kidnappers. None of that means crypto investing is wrong per se, but it's certainly not reassuring, particularly for those who may have bought Bitcoin near the peak just a few months ago and are now sitting on giant losses. Quote, retail investors are teetering between their fear of missing out on a juicy investment and concerns about the unsavory aspects of crypto. Quote, such investors will invariably amplify the volatility of crypto prices in both directions, and I think that's what we're seeing right now. Bitcoin's rally, sparked by President Trump's re-election, attracted new investors to crypto who cared more about the number going up than the cultural or political associations. But when the financial upside began to sour, there wasn't a lot keeping investors in the market. So this whole article, this reason I wanted to bring it up is this part right here. And the reason for that is simple, guys. Like, I remember, at least when I got into this game, you know, there's this meme. It was much more militant. Like, people understood what was at stake. You know, now it's playing out. Like, in the intro segment, if you guys were tuned in, when I was talking about what's happening in the EU regarding the CBDCs, the digital identity, and the social media censorship, like, people forget, like, And it seems like this year people really forgot. The amount of people that are taking self-custody is down. The amount of times that I've heard people selling their Bitcoin and just exchanging it for ETFs is high. And people forgot. Like, this is not the energy that I felt when I got in. Like, we really thought we were going to change the world. And if you take a look at the earlier Andreas videos and how inspiring they were, like, a lot of that's been gone. And, you know, here at Simply Bitcoin, we're going to continue to beat the drum and tell you guys, you know, why you're ultimately here. It's like, yeah, okay, number goes up, that's fine, but you're here to change the world. And I want you guys to remember that. You are here to change the world. And all you got to do to participate in changing the world for the better for future generations is by buying Bitcoin, earning Bitcoin, mining Bitcoin, and putting that Bitcoin into self-custody. That's really it, right? So, you know, we did, this article framed it perfectly. We got everything we wanted. I think this is why I was so bullish on Bitcoin in the beginning of the year. Like, we really did get everything we wanted. We got a pro-Bitcoin president in the White House. We got Ross Ulbricht-Fried. We got an executive order talking about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We got all of these things. But number never went up. And because number never went up, people lost enthusiasm and they got bored and they just didn't want to do it anymore. And you're seeing that. Like, retail is literally gone. It doesn't even see Bitcoin as a thing, right? 2017 was all about retail. 2021 was all about retail. Retail, this cycle, non-existent. It's all been about ETFs and institutions acquiring Bitcoin. And that's not how things change. So, you know, perhaps it was naive of us to think that things were going to change. Perhaps Bitcoiners didn't take into account human nature. But I refuse to believe that. So don't forget why we're here. We're here to fix the money, fix the world. And the way that you do that is by taking Bitcoin into self-custody. And if enough of us do that, we win, and there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. It's as simple as that. It's really not rocket science. Anyhow, I do want to give away some sats to wrap up today's show. If you guys have stayed tuned for this long, smash that like button. Consider subscribing. Really, really helps with the channel. But this is the Bitcoin wishing well. When you go to bitcoinwell.com and use promo code simply, or you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, you get 3 tosses into the wishing well. The wishing well, essentially, you toss a coin to the wishing well, and every time you play, you win sats no matter what. And you have the opportunity to win up to 1 million sats. So almost $900, right? Every single time you play. So again, all you got to do is you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply to get signed up. But we're going to play, actually, since it's Friday, we'll toss a couple coins into the wishing well. So we're going to toss 1 coin. Here we go. Get your Lightning wallets ready to scan the QR code. Bam, bing, bam, boom. And first person who scanned that has won 549 sats. Let's play this one more time. I'm going to toss a coin into the wishing well. Again, first person to scan that has won 521 sats. Let's do it one more time, just in case. One more time. First person to scan this with their Lightning wallets has won 426 sats. Again, you get 3 tosses for free if you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, if you use that URL and sign up today. If you guys enjoyed today's show, you know what to do. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing. We'll be back next week. Opti will be back from vacation. I hope you guys had a very, very happy Christmas, a very Merry Christmas with your family. I wish you guys all the best on this holiday season. And 2026 is just around the corner. So I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I think this is the last weekend of 2025. So I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Hope you guys enjoy it with your friends, with your family. You're taking some time off. And we love you guys at Simply. We wouldn't be here without you. We appreciate you all. And we'll see you guys on Monday. Take it easy, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.